Welcome back to part 3 of the history of the Tauren. When players first encounter the Tauren in Warcraft 3, Reign of Chaos, they are witnessing the final days of the Long Hunt. The Tauren are exhausted, their tribes are scattered, Centaur raids are growing increasingly devastating, hope is fading, yet despite centuries of suffering, they remain unmistakably Tauren. They do not abandon honour. They have not forgotten compassion. They still greet strangers with caution, but also with kindness. They continue thanking the Earth Mother for every hunt. They continue respecting the spirits. They continue believing that strength exists to defend the weak. These ideals, preserved across thousands of years of hardship, are precisely what drew Kharn to Thrall. For perhaps the first time since the War of the Ancients, the Tauren met another people seeking redemption rather than conquest. Neither race realised it in that moment, but history was about to turn. The Long Hunt is nearing its end. The age of wandering is almost over. The children of the Earth Mother stand on the threshold of a new chapter, one that will carry them into the Horde, across the seas, and into the world stage for the first time in 10,000 years. Their greatest trials are not behind them, but the first time in centuries, the Tauren can finally see the dawn. While the Tauren struggled against the Centaur, events across the Great Sea had transformed another ancient people. The Orcs of Draenor had once been noble, shamanistic clans with a deep respect for the elements. They changed when they were manipulated by the Burning Legion. Corrupted by demonic influence, they invaded Azeroth through the Dark Portal, beginning the First and Second Wars. By the end of those conflicts, the old Horde had been defeated. Its warriors were imprisoned. Its spirit was broken. Then came Thrall. Raised as a slave by humans, Thrall eventually escaped captivity and rediscovered the traditions of his ancestors. Guided by the mysterious prophet Medivh, he reunited the scattered clans and rejected the bloodlust that had nearly destroyed his people. Medivh warned him that a new invasion of the Burning Legion was coming. If the world was to survive, the Orcs would need to sail west, across the Great Sea, to the forgotten continent of Kalimdor. Thrall did not know it then, but that voyage would forever intertwine the destinies of the Horde and the Tauren. After making landfall in Kalimdor, the Orcs quickly discovered that the continent was far from empty. Hostile Quilboar, harpies, and unfamiliar creatures challenged their progress. The land was harsh, beautiful, and dangerous. Then came something unexpected. As Thrall's warriors marched across the barrens, they heard the sound of battle. Ahead, a caravan of enormous horned nomads struggled against wave after wave of Centaur raiders. The Tauren had been caught in yet another ambush. To the Orcs, it would have been easier to continue their journey. These strangers were not their concern. But Thrall had not rebuilt the Horde by ignoring those in need. He ordered his warriors to charge. Axes crashed into Centaur shields. Spears splintered. Wolf riders tore through enemy ranks. For the first time in many years, the Centaur found themselves fighting an enemy they had never encountered. The sudden arrival of the Orcs also broke their assault. When the dust settled, the Tauren were alive. Their leader stepped forward, towering even amongst his own people, carrying himself with quiet dignity rather than arrogance. The first meeting between Kharn and Thrall is one of the defining moments in Warcraft history. Neither leader knew each other, neither owed the other anything, yet both immediately recognised something familiar: honour. Thrall saw a people who fought not for conquest, but for survival. Kharn saw warriors who possessed tremendous strength, yet showed restraint. In another age, they may have become enemies. Instead, they became allies. Following the battle, Kharn welcomed the Orcs as honoured guests around the campfire. The High Chieftain explained the plight of his people. For generations, the Centaur had driven the Tauren from one homeland from another. Their numbers dwindled. Every migration became more dangerous. Every victory cost lives they could scarcely afford to lose. The Orcs listened. Much of Kharn's stories sounded painfully familiar. The Orcs too had lost their homeland. They too sought freedom from a tragic past. Both peoples carried the weight of history upon their shoulders. For Thrall, the meeting confirmed something he had begun to suspect. Perhaps the Horde's future would not be built through conquest. Perhaps it would be built through friendship. The alliance was forged almost immediately. The Centaur remained the greatest threat to the Tauren. Helping them was not merely an act of kindness, it was strategically sound. Every Centaur band destroyed made Kalimdor safer for the Horde as well. Together, Tauren hunters and Orc warriors proved remarkably effective. The Tauren understood the terrain, the Orcs brought disciplined soldiers hardened by years of war. The combination overwhelmed Centaur raiding parties that had terrorised the plains for centuries. For many young Tauren, it was the first time that they'd ever fought aside another race. For many Orcs, it was the first time they'd fought alongside allies who expected nothing in return. Trust grew quickly. The ascent into Stone Talon was treacherous. Narrow paths wound between towering cliffs. Enemies lurked in the forests. Supplies grew scarce. Yet Thrall and Khan pressed onward together. At the summit, they discovered that they were not alone. The mountain had become a battleground. The Harpies, fierce Ivan creatures, had claimed the surrounding peaks, descended upon the travellers in great numbers. Orc and Tauren fought shoulder to shoulder. Axes and totems held the narrow passes. Shamans called upon the elements. Hunters rained arrows from the cliffs. The battle demonstrated how naturally the two peoples complemented one another. The Tauren's immense strength anchored the front lines. The Orcs' battlefield discipline provided panic. Neither race sought personal glory. They fought as one. By the time the fighting ended, mutual respect had become genuine friendship. After descending from Stone Talon, Khan faced the greatest decision of his life. For thousands of years, the Tauren had remained independent. They'd formed temporary alliances before, but never bound themselves to another civilization. Joining Thrall meant embracing an uncertain future. Many risks remained. The Orcs were strangers. Their history was stained by war. Other Tauren questioned whether such an alliance was wise, but Khan looked beyond the past. He judged Thrall not by the crimes of the old Horde, but by the character of the man standing before him. Thrall had risked his own people to save the strangers. He had shown humility instead of arrogance. He'd listened before speaking. He respected the Earth Mother's children. Those qualities mattered more than history. Khan pledged the support of the Bloodhoof tribe. The Tauren would stand beside the new Horde, not as servants, not as conquered subjects, but as equals. It was the most important political decision in Tauren history. When the Tauren finally reached the valleys of Mulgore, many elders wept. For generations, they'd spoken of a place where children could grow without fear of constant attack, where the herds could graze, where ceremonies could be held beneath open skies instead of in hidden camps. For the first time in centuries, the dream seemed possible. The fighting was not over. The Centaur still held much of the region, and hard battles laid ahead before Mulgore could be truly the Tauren's home. But something had already changed. The long hunt had ended. The Tauren were no longer a people fleeing across Kalimdor. They'd found allies, they'd found hope, and at long last, they found a future. The friendship between Khan Bloodhoof and Thrall would become one of the defining relationships of the modern Horde, built not on conquest or necessity, but on mutual respect. It laid the foundations of a new alliance, one that would carry the Tauren into the battles of the Third War, the founding of Orgrimmar, the construction of Thunderbluff, and a new chapter in the 10,000 history. For the children of the Earth Mother, the age of survival was ending. The age of the Horde had begun. With the support of Thrall and the new Horde, the Tauren finally launched a campaign to reclaim their ancestral homeland of Mulgore. After generations of retreat, the combined strength of Orc and Tauren warriors drove the Centaur from the fertile valleys, ending centuries of constant migration known as the Long Hunt. At last, the Tauren had a place that they could truly call home. To protect their people, the Tauren built a new capital atop the towering masses of central Mulgore, connected by great rope bridges and surrounded by sheer cliffs. Thunderbluff became a fortress and a symbol of hope. a city that reflected the Tauren's deep respect for nature rather than a desire for conquest. When his people were finally safe, Khan Bloodhoof was recognised as the High Chieftain of all Tauren, uniting the scattered tribes under a single leader for the first time in generations. His wisdom and compassion helped shape the values of the new horde, ensuring it would be built on honour, cooperation, and mutual respect instead of the brutality that had once defined the old horde. For the Tauren, joining the horde was more than a military alliance. It marked the end of centuries of survival and the beginning of a new era. From the heights of Thunderbluff, the children of the Earth Mother could finally look forward to the future instead of constantly fleeing the past.